it was always the thing when I was young. The deputy head did a lot of the heavy lifting and the sort of keeping people in order a little bit. It certainly was at my school. The actual headmaster, and this is not the case at LES because we know Chris Aiken very well, but he was some old fellow that just stood around in his duffel coat. But it was Mr. Walters, the deputy, that was. He's the one you feared coming towards you, but it's not like that at LES, of course.
No, it's not. I suppose it's not like that. There's a few deputy heads knocking around who do a little bit of that at times. Some students do need to be brought back into line occasionally. But no, Chris still does plenty of heavy lifting. Yes. It's a big organisation. I think, I'm not sure this is true, but Chris did say to me at one point, it's one of the biggest employers in this region. It's a big organisation, Lady Elizabeth School. Over 1,000 students and over 100, 140 staff. So there's a lot needs to be done. And a lot of the organisation of the school and making things happen on a day-to-day basis. Chris and I do a lot of that work together. But of course, there's also, most importantly, you might say, a focus on learning. And one of the reasons for the creation of the deputy head post was to sort of really kind of get that focus on learning in the school and really drive new ideas around learning. And I think my official title is Head of Learning and Innovation, which is a fancy word for change, I think.
Yeah.
But, really sort of trying to look at new ideas in teaching and learning, new ideas that come from educational research, and thinking at how we can use those really to the benefit of all the students in the school.
How much can you change things? Because one of the criticisms that gets levelled at school is that you're not doing sometimes realistic, real-life teaching. Maybe you do outside of, after hours and the like, but some of the subjects, I think, we're never going to use that when I leave school.
Well,
you'll have heard this argument before.
Oh, obviously. Definitely, yeah. And of course, schools have changed a great deal over, even in my career, 27 years, I think I've been teaching. Schools have changed a great deal. And when you look at sort of things like technology, and of course, the first school I ever walked into, there was 4 or 5 computers knocking around, and today everyone's carrying their own. So there's been a great deal of change. I think it's also worth saying, I sort of read a wonderful article once upon a time, a while ago, about a university which had kind of put a survey around saying, how are you changing your teaching methods? And the philosophy department kind of wrote, well, we're using Socratic methods, which were used by the Greeks. They work. We're not changing anything.
Right.
And, there are some things in schools that we do, and they work, and they're good, and they're fun to learn about, and they are... when you read a piece of literature, when you read of Mice and Men, for example, as a GCSE student, as many, many students around the world have done, that has a sort of a message or an idea about the way humans are and the struggles that humans face that is timeless.
Yes.
You don't need to dress it up. You don't need to do it on a fancy computer. You read the book. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, whether it's 1965 or 2025. Some of the work that we do in schools is about that. So, again, some of those things, the way human beings are, is pretty timeless in many ways. So, yes, we change, but some things we don't need to change.
You adapt and innovate, which is part of your title,
Indeed.
Of course. Now, there's a couple of open days coming up, aren't there? So there's one for, I think, the general school life, and then one for primary.
Yeah, the early years in particular, coming up later in the month. The open day's 23rd of October, and everybody's welcome. Come and have a look. It's not a day that we don't put on a big parade or anything. We just sort of open the doors and say, come on in.
Now, this is during school time,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
You're seeing what's actually going on.
Yeah, so come up from about 10 o'clock in the morning, let us get started the day, and come up about 10 o'clock. We'll give you a tour of the school. You'll see students in classrooms doing the things they do. And, break time, lunchtime, the Commodore, all in action. We want people to see the school as it is. We're very proud of the school as it is. Everybody's welcome.
And we're talking, if you take into account the primary as well, 2 to 18, including the early years. And that journey, how do you tell people how it's unique at LLES, that journey? Right through to adulthood, pretty much.
It is. We have a number of students who graduate every year who were with us from age 2 or 3. They're with the school for their entire school life and school career, and that's a really special thing. Of course, lots of students come in and out as well because of the nature of the community around here. But it is a very special thing. Obviously, on certain levels, it's you learn English, you learn Spanish. It's a very bilingual school, but it's a multilingual school as well because you're hearing all sorts of other languages in that school. It's such a diverse place. I think one of the really important things is whether our students are 2 years old or 18 years old, that they feel safe. That's a really crucial element. It's fundamental to learning, but it's fundamental to the relationships you build as well. And I think Lady Elizabeth School is a place where our students feel safe and they feel seen, shall we say, that teachers know them and try and understand them and try and help them through things. All young people experience difficulties in their time at school in one way or another, but teachers are there to support them. So that feeling of safety is really, really important, whether you're 2 years old or 18, as I say.
Well, certainly at any age, but definitely the early years, because you do get used to going to school. By the time you're 13, 14, you sort of know what to expect, although things can change. But in the early years, how do you sort of get them gently introduced into the learning environment?
Well, I was down in the early years the other day, yesterday actually. They were having...
Stickle bricks was the answer in my day.
We've probably still got some of those knocking around.
Yeah.
They work. No, they were having their photographs taken, actually, having school photos this week, which is a lovely occasion in a school. Everyone looks their best and smiles a lot. It's great. And I was down there when it happened to be the 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds who were having their photographs taken. And it's such a lovely, lovely time. I love going down there because you sit on the floor with them and they bring you things and they smile and they're curious about who you are and about what you're doing there and these kinds of things. So it really is a lovely part of the school. And what you want to do is you want them to feel safe, which means to a very large extent allowing them to explore the space they're in. We have a big indoor and outdoor space for the 2-3-year-olds, and they explore that space. And then there are moments in the day when you need to sort of bring a little, shall we say, discipline to it, and you sit on the mat and you have a story, or you're all going down for lunch and you hold your hands and those kinds of things. So you're bringing a sense of order and to that little group. But yeah, that safety element is a really, really important part of what we do for those students who it's their first experience outside home, and away from mum and dad. And some students really love it and embrace it and are ready for it. Others take a little bit longer. But as long as they feel safe and as long as they've got something to be curious about in their surroundings, which they certainly have at LES, then they're usually fine.
And what age do they stop having nap time? Because I saw them in the afternoon. They get their head down for a bit. This is great. I could go for some of this.
Yeah, I can confirm that I've not done that yet in school. Right. I've not got my head down in the middle of the day. But no, they usually by year one, we're moving them on. They get to 4 or 5 years old and they're busy enough. And of course, the parents. It's a really interesting conversation we have to have with families because some families don't want their child to have a nap, and that's fine. We want to keep them going, and they want to make sure they go to bed later, tie them out. Exactly. Right. So it's very individualised and personalised. So teachers have conversations with mums and dads, and we go from there.
Sure. And then as they're making their way through the school, we're talking the British curriculum in followed, so GCSEs and A levels, and a pretty good old range of subjects.
Yeah, very much so.
I wouldn't even ask you to begin detailing them all. But
it kind of refers back to your earlier question about continuity and change. We do English literature, we do maths, we do sciences, we do graphic communications and photography and these kinds of things. A-levels in PE, exploring sort of newer A-levels, if you like, and different things. I think we offer 24, 25 A-levels and a whole range of GCSEs, of course. And it's a big school, so we can do that, which is great. Some of those subjects are we're finding, interestingly, at the moment, we're seeing a big increase in a sort of what you might call an engineering pathway. Lots of students choosing physics and maths. Obviously, computer science is a growing subject too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We've always had and always will have, I guess, students who are interested in medicine and law and those kinds of things, and they're studying subjects, obviously the sciences for medicine, and for law they study geography and history, media studies, things like that. So they're going off in all sorts of different directions, and it's nice to be in a school that's big enough to cater for most of those directions. There are always new curriculum developments. We're talking at the moment about introducing BTECs to the curriculum, and in particular perhaps looking at things like cybersecurity, possibly even introducing some gaming units into that. That's a conversation we're having right now. We're not ready to announce anything or launch anything, but these things are out there, and we know that it would generate some interest in our school and in our community, and we need to serve the community. We need to lead it, and as an educational establishment, but we need to serve the community and what the community feel that the needs are of the students coming out into the big wide world. So new qualifications coming online all the time. And different ways to learn, different ways to be assessed. For example, we also do public speaking qualifications through Lambda,
right?
Which are just wonderful to see the students doing, and they're really, really valuable. We say to I have lots of conversations with students who want to become doctors, and they say, well, I'm going to do, science, and science. And you say to them, well, what about languages? Well, why would I need languages? Well, if you're going to work in a hospital, it's going to be a pretty diverse group.
Of course.
So all of those things that you still want a 16, 17-year-old to have a broad education. That's still sort of desirable. We can offer that, and we can offer that kind of specialisation through the A-levels and GCSEs as well.
And you do see a few people going through and becoming lawyers and doctors, going on to study law. It's a good foundation for it, right?
Yeah, and you've been in this community longer than me, so you probably know some people who went to Lady Elizabeth School. And went on to have fantastic careers, superb universities that they went to. We've got students at the moment all over the world, University of Edinburgh, Warwick, a student in Miami. We've also got a student at Stanford.
Oh, wow.
In California, who's developing. He was in our school the other week. He left a couple of years ago. He's developing websites to support students getting into universities around the world. So, our students, Lady Elizabeth students, are genuinely around the world doing amazing things in universities, and of course the school's been there for nearly 40 years. So, lots of graduates who have gone on and had incredible lives. Yeah,
and it's scary when they sort of turn up again and think, "Hang on, you were just like 17. Remember you coming through there?" But it does. As far as access to international universities, it's that's a big part of what you do as well. You've got that. You provide that access, set them up for going wherever in the world. Yeah,
indeed. And that's a very deliberate programme within the school. About 25% of our students stay in Spain, Valencia, Alicante, Madrid, Barcelona, and one or two other places. About another 20% or so go to Britain, a larger, increasing numbers going to the Netherlands. Lots of European universities, of course, are offering more and more courses in English, which obviously is very exciting for some of the courses that are offered. But we've got students right now who are heading off to Australia and the States, Canada. But as I say, it's a very deliberate process. So we actually start really getting students to think about their future pathway, as we call it, even in year 6 and 7. So they're sort of 10, 11 years old, we start talking about different careers, what exactly is a university? There's no reason why an 11-year-old would know that. So we ask those kinds of questions. We have a subject on the curriculum which we call PSHE, Personal, Social and Health Education. And in that sort of hour or two a week that students have, they explore all sorts of issues. They explore things like being safe online and these kinds of things. But their future pathway is a really important part of that hour or two that they've got. And we ask them to think about what they like doing, what they don't like doing, how they've changed since last year and these kinds of things. We show them clips of different kinds of careers and different kinds of university courses. And of course, we bring down some of the year 12s and 13 students who are applying for universities to talk to some of the younger students about what they're doing, what they're interested in. And we get students to think about the future pathway that they might be interested in. So it's quite a deliberate process of getting students over a period of time, over quite a long period of time, to think about where their future might be. And then, of course, as you get to the business end of that in the sixth form, year 12 and 13, obviously we do a lot of work supporting students' applications. And in fact, this week we've got the Spanish University Fair in the school.
Right, yeah, I've seen
lots and lots of Spanish universities coming. And in the new year we have an international university fair with obviously alternatives around the world. So it's something that we support very deliberately.
And due to the nature of parents moving to Spain at any time, you could join the school at any time. You don't have to come in from year 4, whatever, year 7. But I guess you're getting people just coming in to do A-levels. They start their A-levels from somewhere else at LES. Yeah,
we do. In fact, year 12, which was the beginning of A-levels, if you like,
right.
16 years old, we've got about 40 new students in the school, which is great. Yeah. Most of those students have come from elsewhere around the world, so they don't necessarily have GCSEs. So we have to work with families really closely. We try and work really closely with them to say, well, how have you achieved in your previous school? What have you enjoyed? And what is your future pathway? Because often in countries such as the Netherlands, for example, a 17, 18-year-old has to study maths. And that's true in other countries too. But it's not true of the A-level system. So we have some students who think they have to choose to study maths, but they don't. And it's not what they want to do anyway. So they get this opportunity to, if I knew I could just choose, history, Spanish, French and media studies, then I'll do that. So they get a choice to move away from some of the subjects that might be compulsory in their home countries. But we're really proud of that because it means that it's a really important couple of years in a young person's life. that families would trust us with those couple of years is a real privilege for us.
And that sort of leads on to, what about the tie-in with the Spanish qualifications, the ESO and similar?
Yeah. So we have a full Spanish system. Students are learning Spanish either as a foreign language or as a home language, really from down in the primary school.
Right.
And as they progress through the secondary school, they can learn Valencian and obviously Castilian language and literature. They learn history and geography of Spain in Spanish as well. Not all students, but the students who have Spanish as a first language or choose that route can learn in Spanish. The whole lessons are in Spanish.
But am I right in saying they can get like the equivalent if you came through a Spanish school, those qualifications, as if you did that curriculum?
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of universities, most of the universities in Spain in particular and elsewhere, when you get into the sixth form, we offer the PETHE subjects. So most of them do 4 A-levels and 2 PETHE subjects, and that is more than enough to get equivalency to get them into a university. And as I say, about 25% every year of our students go to Spanish universities. So the system we've got in place works.
Also, just what I wanted to mention, because we get on to, yes, you've got your curriculum and the subjects, but there's what people are good at. Can you spot that in people and maybe steer them in the right... Like the amount of podcasts I listen to, the most successful creative people, hopeless at maths, but they were forced to do it. And there wasn't any point, really...
Yeah,
because they just couldn't do it. You obviously need to learn the basics, but is there any point in pushing it on them when they're going in a different direction completely?
Yeah, I think that's where at 14 years old we begin to give students some choices. You want that broad curriculum, but at 14 years old, in the British curriculum, you start to make some choices. So you have to carry on doing things like English language, literature, maths and sciences and these kinds of things. But you get a choice then of, well, I don't want to do history anymore, but I do quite like geography. So the students begin to get choices, and that's about them taking responsibility for their own futures. As they get a little bit older again, 2 years later, they get a different choice around A-levels. And again, that's really informed by their future pathway, what they want to go do at university. So the sense of encouraging that personal responsibility and a slightly different direction for each individual student, that's really important to us. But also, and you touched on that idea that every student, I mentioned earlier on about the word being seen. I do the duty on the road in the morning, and all the students come from the buses across the zebra crossing, and as they walk across, I always think to myself, I hope every single one of them feels that somebody in this school really cares for them, whether that's there's 1,100 students, I can't know them all, but somebody in the school really knows that student well enough to know that they are learning the violin, to know that they are playing in the football team down at Javier, or to know that they are caring for a younger brother on a Friday evening, or whatever it is that they're doing, which is additional to their academic studies. Every student is more than one thing. They're a learner at LES, but they're also a brother or a sister. They're a son or a daughter. They are a comfort to somebody. They are a sports person or a singer, and we really want to celebrate that. We want to know about it. We want to reward it where that's appropriate, to talk about it, and to make those students feel that that particular talent they have has been seen. And if in some way we can support that, if we've got a student, and we often do, students who play a little bit of guitar at home or whatever, but they don't in school. Right. And there may be a little bit of self-consciousness, particularly for teenagers and that kind of thing. But if we know these things and we learn these things, if these things are seen by our teachers, then we can start to just drop some hints and find little opportunities for them to show off their talent, because everybody loves doing that. Everybody loves to show, and that sense of intrinsic motivation, doing something because you love doing it. I don't need a reward for this. I don't need, extra kilometres and house points and things like that. I'm going to do this because I love doing it. When you tap into that in a school, that's really, really powerful.
Yes, and if you mention it to them, their particular area of interest, it makes their day sometimes. Even I'm sure all the teachers are, but I've seen Chris Aiken. I've walked around the school with him, and he knows all their names. Yeah. You say, how does he do this? But it just makes all the difference, doesn't it? It can really, give them a lift.
Definitely, and that's true for all of us. That's true for adults as well. And somebody, again, that phrase, to be seen, to be recognised, to know that somebody knows about you and cares about you. That's a really, really powerful thing and really, really important in child's development. Mm.
And again, sort of leading on from, yes, you've got your subjects in the classroom, but maybe once you've come through A-levels, we've talked about going on to university, and it's not kind of, okay, off you go, we've done our bit. There is a little bit, it would be a bit of aftercare and, mentoring them through the next stage.
Yeah, one of the lovely advantages of being in a school that's nearly 40 years old is you've got this sort of great sort of swathe of alumni and students who still have connections with this area. The family might still be here. So we've had a number of cases over the last few years where students who have gone on to do this or that at university have come back to talk about the students in our school who want to go and do a similar thing. And that's a really lovely pool of talent to call upon. As I say, Chris and I, we mentioned the young man who's at Stanford at the moment, came back into school because he wanted to help the students in our school. So we get lots of students appearing at reception and asking if they can go and see Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so and say hello after 3 or 4 years being away. And that is a really, really lovely thing that they've still got that connection with our community.
Yeah, quite. And there are other sort of out-of-hours things as well. There's the Plus Clubs and even the Duke of Edinburgh. You're still doing that at school?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bigger numbers than ever, actually, for the Duke of Edinburgh. Duke of Edinburgh scheme is such a wonderful, wonderful scheme because it's great in terms of it's very active. So the Duke of Edinburgh scheme is designed to encourage young people to be active on the outdoors. But there's a lot more to it than that. People tend to think the Duke of Edinburgh is about camping outdoors. And of course that is part of it.
I just think of like a rope ladder and mud.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big, big part of the fun of it. However, students who are doing the Duke of Edinburgh, and there's 3 awards, bronze, silver and gold, they also have to show evidence of service to others. They have to show evidence of leadership, of organising things. And this is something we are very, very passionate about at Lady Elizabeth School. And we just introduced, actually, last year we introduced something called the LES Diploma. And that was introduced as a pilot to Year 12 students. The idea is that students will keep a record of the things that they do outside the classroom, the things that they're proud of. It might be the Duke of Edinburgh scheme. It might be that they are helping out with the Plus Clubs at school and they are leading on dance or sports or something like that. It might be that they're learning to play the guitar, the violin, the sports clubs that they're outside. These things that they do outside of school that we want to recognise and we want to say to them, we want to get them to think about, how are these helping you to grow? How are you learning about yourself from doing these things? When you commit to going to training twice a week to play for the football team and playing on a Saturday, what are you learning about yourself when you're doing that? So we want to give the students a place and an opportunity to reflect on the skills and the competencies that they are gaining from the things that they do outside the classroom, the things that they love to do and don't necessarily always reflect on what I'm learning from it. But if you do commit to training twice a week and playing on a Saturday, even sometimes when you're the substitute or whatever, you're showing great resilience, you're showing great commitment, you're showing great teamwork and collaboration and so on. These are important skills. And when you get further up the school and you're making those applications for jobs, CVs, you're making university applications, universities want to know who you are. Yes, they want to know what qualifications you have, but they want to know who you are. They want to know how you've grown. They want to know how you've changed. They want to know which obstacles you've overcome when you thought you couldn't do it, but you did anyway. That's a big moment in a child's life, and we want to see that. We want to celebrate it. We want to reward it, and we want the students to feel that has been seen.